So, I went on to watch, after I made my video from yesterday about Saitama, I went on to watch another video that somebody did. They were saying that Krillin from Dragon Ball Z, the bald man, could... I don't know, I never got to what they were trying to ultimately claim, because I just kind of got bored halfway through because it was ridiculous. But they were saying that Krillin, the title was he could slap One Punch Man. And I'm like, this has got to be good. I love Krillin, right? I always play the Krillin game that Krillin fans play, where you fucking mental gymnastics your way to where Krillin is always the hero and Goku's kind of his supporting character, right? Like, I love playing that game. Dude, I used to do it with my buddy constantly. I used to constantly tell Dennis all of the different ways in which Krillin is really the shit on Dragon Ball Z, and Goku is kind of like a supporting character to him. I had such... I'm going to have to see if I can remember any. I can't remember any of them off the top of my head. I have to watch some Dragon Ball, like old Dragon Ball Z again, because it was all based off of that. It isn't based off of fucking Dragon Ball Super. I can't even mental gymnastics my way into that shit. So, you know what I mean? I'm going to have to watch, like, season 1 again to figure out how it was I did that. Anyways, so I'm a huge Krillin fan. I love Krillin. I think he's a fun character. I love his character arc. Like, his whole character throughout the entirety of the show is just always fun to watch. He's just he's such a well-written character. So, I was like, well, I gotta see this. I gotta at least see the argument, because that just sounds funny to me. Because it's Krillin, right? So I'm watching it. And in order to fathom how it is that Krillin could, you know, beat up Saitama, whatever, could slap One Punch Man, however it is that you get there, right? The way that you have to go to get there is you have to make it somehow possible that A, One Punch Man can take damage, and C, that he isn't gonna kill Krillin with one punch, right? So you have to figure out a way in which you can mental gymnastics your way into that. And I'll give them kudos. They set it up brilliantly. It's like David Copperfield. I used to love watching him make shit disappear and saw himself in half and all that stuff. I used to, man, every time David Copperfield would put out a fucking special, me and my entire family would gather together and watch the goddamn thing. It was, the kids were allowed to stay up late to watch David Copperfield. It was one of the few things. That, and oddly enough, Mike Tyson fights. We were allowed to stay up late to watch Mike Tyson fight. I had a weird childhood. Anyways, so, yeah, but it was fun, whatever. David Copperfield, right? And David Copperfield would come on, right? And then he would, like, pull a bird out of his ass, and it would, everybody go, oh, it's, you know, it came out white. You know what I mean? Like, ooh. And he'd come out, and, you know, he'd do his, hello, everybody, and he would be like, I'm an illusionist, right? He tells you he's an illusionist. And then he tells you that there will be no tricks, no photography tricks, no film tricks, none of that shit. No mirrors, smoking mirrors, we ain't doing that shit. This is fucking magic, bitch. Right? It's essentially what he does. Now, if you look up what is an illusionist essentially is a person that lies. So he tells you, I am a liar, and then he proceeds to tell you that all of this is magic. Right? And so it kind of made me laugh because it made me think of that shit. They come out and they talk about Akama's razor and fucking Meharoon's razor and some dude's hatchet and all sorts of fucking weird shit. Molly's hatchet. I don't even fucking know. Again, it's with me because I've never been properly trained how to be a douchebag. It's all fallacies to me. So they whipped out a whole bunch of fallacies, but they had weaponry, right? So I don't know. And they're explaining what these different hatchets and whatnot are, And they say, well, this is what people use. They fall into the trap of Molly's hatchet, and then they explain what it is. It made me laugh because they literally took one of my arguments that I spent like, I don't know, a good 2 or 3 minutes harping on. It's One Punch Man. The whole point of the show is he beats people, one punch, right? Pow, 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 right? Like that's it. One punch, and that's it. Anytime that he's actually fighting with somebody, he's fucking around because he wants a good fight. He doesn't get one because, yet again, every time he hits somebody, they blow apart. So, One Punch Man, right? Like, the title of the show, it's aptly named. It's an aptly named show. Because that's the result every time he gets into a fight. The fight ends when he punches him one time. And the dude blows up. Like, that... It's an appropriately named show. It's a very appropriately named show, right? That is my argument. Apparently that's some sort of hatchet. It's a fallacy of some sort, right? It doesn't matter that one punch is all it ever takes that man to beat somebody, right? It doesn't matter that that's actually what happens in the show every single time, right? We can't make the comparison that because the show is named the result of every fight, that somehow means that the result of every fight with him is going to be one punch and they're down. Alright, fine. I think it's kind of silly, but whatever. So they explain all these razors and hatchets and prickle bushes and whatnot that people fall into as traps of fallacies. They do all this douchey horseshit, right? And then they proceed to do the exact same thing with every single fucking one of their arguments. So essentially their ultimate point is arguing that Saitama is unbeatable is ridiculous because he's never fought anybody of note. Right? And I'm kind of like, so that's the crux of their argument. The grading system of villainous bad guys, right? It goes up to God tier, and God tier is a threat to humanity. That's literally the description, a threat to humanity. And they say, well, Krillin could be a threat to humanity. If Krillin decided he wanted to kill every normal human on the planet, you wouldn't have a whole lot of trouble, right? And that's a fair enough argument. I would say that if Krillin decided to become a threat to humanity, sure, he could be regarded as one, right? But every character on that show, from what I see, could be a threat to humanity because they have superpowers. And humans are humans. Every one of them, if you want to go with the definition is so broad it could count for anything, yeah, the definition is so broad. Saitama himself is a god tier threat. So is Guru and everyone else on the show. All the good guys, all the bad guys, they are all god tier threats. Because if any one of them was unfettered and had nobody to repel them, they could easily wipe out all of humanity. This is a brilliant fucking argument. Because everybody is essentially on the same tier, anybody could be Saitama. Outside of his... Because obviously everybody on his show is fucking worthless compared to him. They can't do even a lick of damage to him. I don't believe the guy bleeds after the point he's bald. And he never loses. Like, he never loses. He always wins with one punch. Like, that's... There you go. Like, he doesn't bleed. Nobody can do that much damage to him on his show. Nobody. All of the god tier threat level people, none of them can do any damage to him, right? So he has surpassed everybody on that show. Now, if you want to make comparisons, that Krillin is far more powerful than any character on that show, simply because Krillin is in a different imaginary universe that is based off of different imaginary scales that Saitama has never been directly gauged by. It's a silly fucking argument. Here's the facts. There isn't one being in his entirety of his reality that can damage him, nor sustain one good, meaningful punch. There isn't one creature in his universe. Because, quite simply, it's never once happened on the show. Like, when he was training, when he was doing the 100 sit-ups, and the 100 crunches, and the 100 push-ups, in the heat, for 3 years, to become so broken he cannot take damage, nor can anyone withstand a good, meaningful punch from him. Like, well, while he was doing that, he was getting his ass beat pretty regularly, and fair enough. But once he became bald, all that shit ended. He never lost, and he always won with one punch. That's canon. If you want to go by, there's just no way. Whatever, we can say whatever we want. Yeah, okay, fine. We can say whatever we want. But if we want to make serious arguments, here's a serious argument, right? About this cartoon, right? The man has never sustained damage, nor has anybody been able to sustain a meaningful punch from him. A single meaningful punch. It's never happened. Right? So in Saitama's reality, he is the ultimate being as far as combat is concerned. He wins with one punch, he never takes damage. So if that's the basis of his power, that he can win with one punch and never takes damage, that's the basis of his power. Right? Like Goku's power, at its base, is he has a control of his ki, his spiritual energy, right? He has control of that to amazing degrees, and his well is exceptionally deep. The man can dig forever and find new resources of power in places he never fucking thought to look. That's his power. He can always just go further using his ki. Everything else that comes from what he does, Super Saiyan and all that shit, it's all based off of his control of his ki and the fact that he has no limits. Right? Saitama has reached his limits. His limits are infinite. He can put an infinite amount of energy into one punch. And he has an infinite resistance to damage. That's his power. Like Spider-Man's power is the Spidey sense, and he can climb walls. The webbing, Tobey Maguire, I'm sorry, but the webbing is a contraption. Right? He's super spidery, right? He's got spider reflexes and he's a Spider-Man. Captain America, he's a super soldier. He's a vastly enhanced human. Nowhere near to the scale of Goku, because Captain America has yet to learn how to control his ki. Right? And his power. That's the Iron Fist. Right? Iron Fist versus Goku would be interesting. However, Goku's technique is far better than Iron Fist is even capable of, I believe. We could argue that. I don't know much about Iron Fist. Other than what I saw on the one, he's a whiny bitch. Like, that's what I know about Iron Fist, because that's what the show taught me. I don't think that's the way the comic book character is, so I'm willing to say I don't know much about Iron Fist. But nevertheless, I do know that he controls his chi. With him, it's his chi. But it is the same thing. So, right, there we are. And Saitama's power is he takes no damage, and he beats people in one punch. That's his superpower. Like Thanos needed a gauntlet to get like that, and he still wasn't like that. Saitama's superpower is he takes no damage and he can kill you with one punch. So I'm willing to bet that if you put Krillin with even Krillin's masterful control of his ki, you put him in a fight with Saitama, whose superpower is he takes no damage and kills you with one punch, I'm sure Saitama will make it interesting to watch for a while, but ultimately he will get bored and he will punch Krillin. Krillin will die and Saitama will have taken no damage through the whole thing. And then he'll bitch about missing a sale. Which is an interesting quirk. Like, there's so many interesting quirks in the show. I can't wait to watch this show. I'm going to try and hold out and not spend the $60 on both seasons. I'm going to try and hold out until the next time it's on sale. And then I can, you know, buy them in a package for like $10 or some shit. I'm waiting for that. But if it takes too long, I don't know, I might drop like $30. So, right, I want to watch the show. I'm excited to watch the show. There's so many elements to One Punch Man that just makes me laugh. Like, he's a low-tier C-level hero. His superpower is that he doesn't take damage and he kills people in one punch. And he's a C-level, like a low-tier, low-rank, high-rank, whatever, really high rank. He's like rank 250-something C-level hero. Because he passed the written exam for the hero test by 71%. 70 is failing. He got 71. He passed it by 1%. And that pushed him in the low ranks of the C tier of superheroes. Mind you, his superpower is he takes no damage and he kills you in one punch. It seems like the most brilliant fucking show, because that's retarded. Like, that's so retarded. It's retarded beyond belief. Why is there a written exam that has that much sway over a superhero fucking test? Like, what? It's like he aced every physical test and broke records. Yet a 71, a barely passing on his written exam, made him barely a superhero. His superpower is he takes no damage and he beats you in one punch. It sounds like a brilliant fucking show. The writing on that show sounds amazing. I can't wait to start watching it. Remember, I know nothing about the show, but what I do know is that Saitama's superpower is that he doesn't take damage and he beats you in one punch. So you can pick and choose any superpower from any superhero you want and say, well, what if we put him against Saitama? Well, what's going to happen is they're not going to do any damage to him and he's going to beat him in one punch. Fuck me. So, right, like, what if we put Superman against him? Well, Superman can take damage. So Saitama's going to kill him in one punch, and he's going to take any damage from Superman. What if we put him against Goku? Well, Goku, as we know, can take damage and die. Come back. Superman can die too. Come back. Right? So Saitama's going to, play with him, and then at some point he's going to get bored because he's not going to be taking any damage, and he's going to punch him, and then Goku's going to be dead. Like, that's why I think it's retarded to ask the question, what about Saitama versus who gives a fuck? Saitama's superpower is quite literally that he takes no damage and he kills you in one punch. You can't beat that. Unless you want to say, well, here's another character that can't take damage and beats people in one punch too. Well, what happens when you put an immovable object in front of an unstoppable force? They both finally get the fight they've always wanted. You can't have that. Ruins the show.